more than anything else, the cold email has to be, it's the sort of stock in trade for all copywriters who are looking to get into the industry. This is something that I've realized, I guess it's taken me a while to realize actually, because I've always been very fortunate. I worked inside the industry for a long time, knew lots of people. So when I decided to go freelance, it was largely a case of writing to people I already knew and saying, hey, can we work together and whatever. And I think that is a kind of cold email, by the way, but it's not the same kind of cold email. And as time's gone on, I've realized that's not the way most people are doing it. Most people are completely outside the industry. They have no contacts inside the industry at the beginning, so they're trying to break in. So they're writing cold messages to people on LinkedIn, sending emails, wherever it might be. And Glenn, I mean, I don't know, we must have reviewed 10 of these kinds of emails across, I don't know, across the Fix Academy, Fix Accelerator group, various other areas where we give people feedback. We see the same problems, the same mistakes being made over and over again. So I thought we should do the Fix quick guide to writing a cold email. And that's what we should do today.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.
Yeah, so it's more than that, actually. We've reviewed and we've actively commented on and tweaked to various levels of depth. People who have come to us through our various channels and shared them. But I would argue that there's countless emails in our inbox. There's countless questions on direct messaging on LinkedIn and all this kind of stuff. This question is one that just keeps coming back over and over and over and over again. We both we're lucky in one respect, although it reminds me of speaking to Vicky Ross, who's a very well-known copywriter in the kind of agency world. And when we first met, we first met because I was looking to hire new copywriters and I wanted to spread my net a bit wider. So I spoke to Vicky and we were talking about how many copywriters these days, I don't like that phrase, but you know what I mean, how many are coming into the industry fresh as copywriters wanting to be freelance copywriters rather than going through employment. Now, me and you both went through employment. It was the same for Vicky. Doing that time and actually getting a job negates often the fact to have to do this. However, in the modern world where perhaps there isn't as many copywriting jobs, where there's more opportunity to perhaps immediately go freelance than there used to be, because there is so much demand for copy and content and what have you out there and strategy. But I think that's why it's become such a big thing, but no one seems to give it the time and effort and strategic thinking that you would give to the copy you write to sell, to the actual that you would submit. It is your most important piece of copywriting in the sense that that's the bit that's going to get you the gig. And if you get one gig, that ball starts rolling, and it's so much easier to get another gig and another gig and another gig. So that cold pitch, why most people seem to flaunt all copywriting rules that we've learned, is beyond me. It's not beyond me. I understand people just don't think of it like that because it's the hardest thing is to sell yourself. We all like
themselves. It's just like, if you want to see the worst copywriting in the world, go and look at the LinkedIn bio that copywriters have. They're all awful. 99% of them are dreadful copywriting. It's because we get in our own way, and a cold email is kind of a variety of that's variation on a theme. So I think we should talk through the mistakes that people make, because actually a large part of this is just eliminating mistakes. But before we do that, I just want to give everybody the outline that I think you need to follow, because I think a cold email is really, really simple. So we'll talk through best practice at the end and some little tips and tricks, and we'll talk about things not to do. But very quickly, I think there's only 4 things you need to do in a cold email. And this can be 4 lines if you want, and that's fine. If it's just 4 lines, it's fine. Probably doesn't need to be much more than that anyway. Might be a little bit, depending on how long a line is. But effectively, cold email just needs to do 4 things. Make me, pitch me an offer, offer me something of value to begin with. Establish some form of connection. Credentialize yourself, and then ask for a specific response at the end. That's all you need to do. That's it. Nothing else. So just stick to those things, and we'll talk through each category in a second and what to do and what not to do. Stick to those things, and I'm not going to, it's a cold email. You're not going to get a response every time, but the nature of cold email means it's about percentages. You will get more responses doing it this way. It will be easier to write if you just keep it simple and stick to that.
Keep it simple, keep it short.
Yeah.
I think that's I think overall of the things we notice, the broadest error is that people are writing pages, like scrolling down an email. Like, no, it needs to be short, to the point. It evidences that you immediately understand and respect the person receiving it. They haven't got time, that. And also it delivers your message in a clearer way, as we'll get to.
So let's just talk through that strategy, and we'll just do each step, what to do and what not to do. Okay, so the opening, pitch them an offer. That's a sort of awkward way of saying it, but offer them something of value right from the outset. Okay, they don't know you. That's the whole point of a cold email. Don't be overly familiar with them. Don't say, how are you? Don't say, I know you're busy, so I won't keep you long. Don't say, I'll cut straight to the point. These are all things that, and I'll tell you this for a fact, I've sat around a table with other copy chiefs, other publishers, talking about how we delete those emails. It's a thing. We know it. Because they're all ways of not starting your message properly. They're all ways of clearing your throat. They're all ways of wasting my time under the guise of pretending to not waste my time. I think you'd have to go probably 100 episodes back, but the episode we did with Kelly Brown at Stansbury, she said this specifically. Don't start with, I know you're really busy. If you know I'm really busy, you wouldn't say that to me, would you? You'd get on with it. So don't do that. Let me just tell you, I'd say 95% of first drafts start with some form of that, some waffle. It just seems to be the natural thing we do when writing in the context of a cold email.
I would say it's the natural thing we do with all writing. And again, the idea that we should take our copy training into this particular exercise, I would say 90% of the first few lines you will write for any piece of promotion, any piece of content, any advert will be guff and should be deleted. And it's the same here. That throat clearing, it needs to be deleted and edited down just as you would a piece of copy. If you're doing neither, you're not ready to go out and get a job anyway, because you should be deleting that first opening anyway. But that principle is universal to any form of communication. That's the point of what we're doing.
So you will want to do it, clearly. It's clearly an inherent thing that people want to do, because I've seen it so many times. Don't do it, or cross it out. So look at your cold pitch that you've got. Get it out now. Does it start with some variation of that? How are you? I know you're busy. Let me come straight to the point. Let's just opening line drivel. You are going to be deleted before the next line. I'm going to delete you so quick. I'm going to break the land speed record to delete that email, because all you're telling me is you don't know how to write copy. You don't know.
All you're telling me is that you read your emails in a really fast car.
It would
speeding up.
You know what I mean? You are sending a signal, which is, I'm not confident in my pitch. I don't know how to start a pitch. Now, the way I think about it is put your offer or your benefit right up there on the opening line. So if somebody was writing to the fix, I would want to see something like, hi, Nick, I've got a really simple way you can get more sales through your website. Or I've taken a look at the Fix's website and I think there's something you can do to increase your response. Something of value to me. It doesn't have to be a crazy big promise, because the way I look at it, cold emails, you're probably not good. Most people aren't going to read much more than the first line, right? Probably. Statistically speaking, that's just the way it works. So what I want to do if I'm putting something like that out there is make sure they knew what the opportunity to them was. Because if they know what it is and they say, so for instance, if somebody did send me that, I might think, website, that's Glenn, delete. But at least I knew what it was about, right? At least I knew what the benefit was and I had to choose, I don't want to. I'm happy to be rejected on those terms because I think, well, they didn't not know, wasn't through confusion. It was just through all the other factors of which we can't really control as the person writing the pitch. So open with the benefit, just put it right there in the opening line. Don't die wondering. Don't let them not know what it was you had to offer.
And just on a stylistic element for that, I'm now thinking of all the emails I get through my inbox. Don't write it in a jargony way. Say that offer as simple as possible. Don't say you accelerate content production nodes through ambient sell-offs. Like, just don't say any of that crap. Just go, I'm going to make you, I've found a way I think I can make you more sales. It's always going to come back ultimately to sales. Like, it just is. I remember when I was trying to name the sub title of my book, and we were going all around the world, and I said, look, it's selling. Like, it just is. So it's more sales. That's what people want if they want to learn. So it's probably always going to come back to sales, but there might be something a bit more specific. But do not put jargon in there, because I just see so many jargon openings. Even when people do make an offer, it's jargon based, and therefore I know, it's probably what's the word when it's just done the same email. Yeah, I know it's that, and also I just think, again, from a copywriting point of view, obviously I understand copywriting, but most people will unconsciously know this. You're already speaking in jargon to me. You're not a very good communicator. Like, if you can't tell me fundamentally, I'm going to get you more customers, I'm going to make you more money, I'm going to make you look cooler, like simple things, you need to avoid jargon in it.
Just on that point, there's a important distinction. You are going to have to say I, but you want the sentence to be about you. Okay. So don't start with, I'm a such and such and such and such that helps such and such and such and such do X, Y, Z, which is what a lot of people do. Yeah. I help startup businesses that I don't care what you do. Why are you coming up to me and telling me about yourself? I know that's what cold email is, but like, just imagine somebody in the street just walking up to you and saying, I help retailers reduce their bounce rate. I'm sorry, have you escaped from sort of insane asylum? Leave me alone. So it's going to be but then it's going to flip into you. I think I've spotted a way that you could make more money from your website with a really simple tweak. That's a really simple one, basic. I don't know what it is you do, but I think I found a way you can stop your best talent leaving your business. Even those sentences then, it was 1 I to 2 U's, right? So it's still weighted to them. Don't talk about yourself. I've spotted something that you can do. That's your offer, okay? So don't warm up. Don't do any of the stuff that we talked about. Just make them your pitch really quickly.
Make them an offer, a simple single end goal offer in straight, banal language, like in the simplest form you can.
Short word, no jargon, really obvious benefit. Then literally the next line probably, and if you have to add more, whatever, I would literally write the next line. I should step back a bit. And then you're going to establish some sort of connection. So this is going to be specific to the business. I've been looking at what you do and I love X, Y, or Z, just something that you like. The way I just said, I love X, that's kind of a crappy way of doing it. Something authentically about what it is they do that attracts you to their business. So establish a connection.
You cannot cheat on this bit. This is, for me, this is a make or break. The amount of times I vocally say out loud in my office, you clearly don't know who I am or what I do. Because if you had emailed me, yeah, but all these things, they go, oh yeah, do this thing. We're back. And I think, you haven't even looked at the Fix website. You haven't even read my book. You haven't done anything to show me when I am quite not well known, you know what I mean? But it will take you 2 seconds to find out that I have a dog called Pablo, or like, do you know what I mean? You can find these details so easily. You've got to find that detail, and it's got to be genuine. If it's not, I would say that's going to be the second biggest turn off from people. It's better not to do anything. It's better not to say, I've been looking at your thing, and lie. This got to be genuine.
That's true. And we'll come back to this at the end, because there's a couple of things that you can do. But just one way of thinking about this is, it's a cardinal sin of cold email, which is you're writing from a position of coldness. That's the same as mine as the recipient. So I don't know anything about you. I'm the person receiving the email. I'm cold. You're introducing yourself. I don't know anything. You've got no excuse for not knowing anything about me. You're sending the bloody thing. See what I mean? Like, so spend a little bit of time. Like Glenn said, we'll talk about the amount of time, but warm yourself up. Do you know what I mean? Like, reduce the coldness of the whole thing. You can know a little bit about me. Like we say, you know, somebody who'd watched the first 10 minutes of the Fix episode would probably be able to gather something that would, you know, allow for a little bit more connection. So offer, then connection. What is it about this business that makes you want to work with them? Okay. Again, no jargon, not, I love working with multi-level marketing. No. People do it. Don't try and look smart. You're trying to make a connection. Okay. Next thing, who are you? Credentialize yourself. My name's Nick. I'm a copywriter, or I do this, I do that. I don't say I work with high-level marketers to optimize their. You sound dreadful. You sound awful. Just
so, what's the fad for, like? Is it like verbing up your? I'm a sales funnel accelerator. It's like, what? Go away. Just go away from me. Like, there are basic core responsibilities within any sales and marketing team. You need to tell me one of those. Like, again, there might be times for that crap to come out, but not in what ostensibly needs to be a 4-line, very cold, very thing email. No one wants to employ a time hack accelerator ninja thing. Like, it's not. Someone somewhere has lied publicly on the internet and made everybody think that this is how it works.
Somebody pitched themselves to me as a time hack accelerator. I think that might make my list of enemies. I think I might go out of my way to spoil their career.
You once had a feud with a time hack accelerator from Jupiter, didn't you? He arrived one day when we were in the...
Yeah. No, just don't do it. But so if it was me in that section, I would give my credentials. So I'm a publisher, author, copywriter. I ran one of Agora's businesses for 5 years. I've been a financial copywriter for 15 years. Here are the people I've written for. I'd just give my track record. Well, that's not quite track record would in theory be, I've generated millions of dollars. I wouldn't say that, because I think I'd look like...
Objection from the audience. My name's Phil. I've got an objection. You're a publisher. You've been working for 5 years, and you're a 20-year experienced copywriter. You've written a book on it. You're on the internet. You've got 4,000 followers. I ain't going to hear that. What do I say?
Well, what are your credentials? What qualifies you to write for this business? Because if you can't answer that question, then why are you writing a cold email, Phil? So I would give my credentials because I think I'm a reasonably credentialed person. Not everybody is. So you might have to describe what you do. I create financial promotions for businesses like X, Y, and Z. You maybe haven't got that track record, but I'm breaking into the financial industry at the moment. To be honest would be the best thing. I'd like to have a crack at writing for you.
You fiddled your way to it. But yeah, I think the key thing is to be authentic. If you haven't got 5-10 years experience. If you're breaking into the industry, that's what you need to say. Like you'll know, you'll sense the call, whether you should say it or whether actually we can get rid of that for now. But it would be even better and more authentic to say, I've just started out, but I love your thing and I've been eating Weetabix for the last 20 years. There's nothing I don't know about Weetabix, and therefore I just think I'm the right person I'd love to try and write for you. There's ways to get that credential done, but don't try and fake it. Again, don't be inauthentic. But
you might just say, I've got a real, I've just started out. I think I'm making progress. But you might even therefore, I've attached a piece of my work to this email in case you want to see how good I am. Just something that credentializes you. Yeah. You've just got to introduce yourself. Don't use jargon, try and be honest. I know it's hard, but you've got to figure out how to be honest. I quite like getting messages from people who are just starting out. Deep down, we all want to give somebody their break. Because somebody wrote to me, for instance, I'm a financial copywriter, I've been doing it 10 years and I'd never heard of them. That would be my thought. Well, I've never met you then. Like, it's theoretically possible that we might not have met, but I'm sure I would have crossed paths or somebody would know, it's quite a small shop in our industry. We all know.
The word journey on a TV program has become a cliche. It's because it's so often used. And what I mean by that is everybody wants to hear about people's journeys. And the truth is, I would much rather hear, like I always say this about like writing a blog, don't make yourself, if you've just started in copywriting, you haven't done everything that someone like we have kind of thing. Don't claim to have done that. Write me a blog about your experience of going from zero to hero. Tell the journey. That's much more engaging, much more interesting, much more authentic. And it's the same in a cold email. Don't try and pretend that you have more experience. Just be authentic. Say, I'm looking for my break, and here's the reason why I think you're the one to give me it. And that might dovetail slightly into that establishing a connection thing. If you've done your research and like, I don't know, let's say you've seen that on The Fix, I've got loads of John le Carré books behind me. You can kind of pick that detail out and go, I just know I like the same books as you and all this kind of stuff. So there's ways to do that.
That's a good point. These middle two, I'm breaking them down into distinct categories, but like you might blur them. The others, not so much. The start and end are going to be fairly distinct, but we might blur these. I had a really good point to make in that a second ago, but it's gone. But anyway, it's been replaced by your even better point, Glenn. So yeah, you might want to blend that. That was it. Lots of the people that I've hired were breaking into copyright, but that didn't mean they hadn't had a life prior to that. They'd been in the army or they'd run their own business. Or tell me about it. So why is that funny?
I wish you'd have put a full stop at the end of the army. Yeah, that was the only other way you employed people, either experienced copywriters or they had been in the army.
Drilled people. If somebody had been in the army, mention it. I've got ultimate respect for those people because they do something that I'm not brave enough to do. And it makes you a more it three-dimensionalizes you. So it's not necessarily always about, like, for instance, if I was writing a cold pitch for, say, a supplement business to do with sport, I wouldn't mention that I'd been a publisher. I'd say I've run 3 marathons. I've done 2 triathlons. I'm training to do an Ironman. I'm not training to do an Ironman. You know what I mean? I'd give that part. Now, those aren't credentials in the same way, but they dimensionalize me. So introduce yourself and think about how you do that. You're an interesting person. Everybody's got something about them that makes them distinct and unique. So find it, say it, don't spend too long, get it out there. Then move on to the fourth thing, which is tell the person how you want them to respond. Now, this is something that we've been coaching somebody at the Accelerator on over the last few live calls that we've done. Where if you're not part of the Accelerator, £10 a month, you could literally submit your cold email and we'll review it for you. I mean, it's worth £10, whatever. That's $12 if you're using old money. This writer had ended on a note that was quite ambiguous. So I think on an early draft, he'd ask a question, which was something like, is that something you'd be interested in? or could we arrange a call and talk more about it or whatever? So there was a couple of levels of wrongness that we kind of talked through, which was one, ending on a question is like, you're asking me to answer something. And then, so it's already a little bit nebulous. And then also, what response do you want? All you want from a cold email is somebody to respond to you so that you could go to the next step and, turn that initial cold pitch into a conversation. So bugbears of mine, people chucking a Calendly link at the end. Just find some time in my calendar and then we'll talk about it. You think, so you've cold emailed me and you've had the arrogance to say, you book some time in on my calendar. I'll book some time in and come round and burn your house down. Do you know what I mean? Like, I obviously wouldn't do that, but it just pisses me off because it's just, why would I ever do that? I've only just met you. Like, maybe I'm interested in what you have to say, but you're making it really, really difficult for me. So think about what your final, what your sign-off line is going to be, and make it a request, like just reply X. Literally tell them what word to reply with, and I'll move on to the next step, whatever that's going to be. Send them the copy, send them more information. Think about how you want them to respond. Don't leave it.
Yeah, it needs to be like an active thing, like, let me know if you're interested. Like, so it has to forward, it has to create a momentum. Like how you phrase that, there's different ways of doing that, but don't leave, how do you best express it? But you can't leave any room for doubt. You need to, this is the same for, again, without laboring the point, it's all copywriting. You need to give the reader one clear thing that they have to do next. That's, every advert should do that. Every blog post, every piece of content, everything out there is just saying, what should you, the reader, do next after having read this message? Like, that's all you need to do. And that's the same with a cold email. It's what does that person need to do? Take out all of the work for them, as much work as possible. Like, making them think is work. Thinking is work. And if they have to think, oh, right, okay, well, I need to assess whether this is blah, 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 blah. They've already, they probably wouldn't have got past the first line, but like, they're definitely not going to give you the time. So you've just got to eliminate and be in the mindset of, how do I make it dead easy for them to just say, yeah, that's cool. Or like, yes.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Basically,
basically that thing.
So think you need to think specifically, what do you want them to do? And remember, you're not probably going to get a sale in this either. You just want a response. That tells you they're interested. Now you can go in with a longer pitch and more complex things and more detail. Like, it's a conversation, but don't leave it open-ended, and try to make the response mechanism, the thing you're asking for, the smallest, the lowest bar you can make it. Now, this might, if it has to be a Zoom call, if there's no other way of the next step being anything other than a Zoom call, you couldn't even have the reply just to your email and then set up a Zoom. If it has to be Zoom call, make it a Zoom call. That's fine. But really think about, do we really need to go straight to the Zoom call? Or do you just need some signal from them that you're talking to the right person and that you're not wasting their time? You know what I mean? Just get the lowest level of response you possibly can, and then build the next step from there.
Because you've said it, but it's worth reiterating, because what you're looking for is a response. As soon as you get a response, you have massively accelerated your chances of doing anything. Even if the response was no, I'm not interested, I would still argue that there's something there that's actually made them respond to you. So at least you've learned something. All you're looking to do is get them to respond. It doesn't matter really how at this point. You just want them to respond and open a conversation, open that relationship. Then you can do whatever.
You might get a response that's like, no thanks, Glenn. I've actually just hired 3 new copywriters. Fun. Then you can reply, oh, great. I hope they go well. If they don't work out, just keep me in mind. Maybe I'll be... But it's warm now, isn't it? It's a conversation. We're just trying to get to that stage, that's all
you can make a note, and like 6 months down the line, hey there, John, I remember 6 months ago when we spoke, you hired 3 copywriters, just seeing like, how's it going? Are you still got the same needs? Do you need whatever? And you're much further down that conversation, and it creates, it immediately creates that engagement. It takes away your second line. It's already done for you. So all of these things start filling up once you've got that initial response. So your initial response can be so minimal. It's the act of the response is the key thing, which might sound like obvious, but I'm pretty sure most people are thinking about it in the wrong way. They think I think people actually go out there thinking someone's going to like brief them on a job in the response. It's not going to happen. Like, it's just not going to ever happen. All you're looking to do is establish the first rapport in a conversation, and then you can come back. When you do that, you start to understand. I was going to ask early on, Nick can point it out, but people will assume that you need to put all this information in that email, and we're saying make it 4 short lines. That's because this is a sideways process. You will fill up all of the other stuff further down that conversation. But in that initial conversation, all we're aiming for is that one initial response. The reason a long copy sales letter is 10,000 words is because you're asking for £5,000 at the end of it. You have to make a full argument in that situation. Here, all we're asking you to do is just hit reply. So that's why it's much shorter, it's tighter. Every word has to work. Every line has to do something. If it doesn't, it needs deleting. And that's, again, a basic rule of copyright, really.
So I would say the most common mistakes are around the start and end of this process. Probably the bits in the middle are going to be relatively okay. And, there'll be some jargon in there in general, but they can usually be straightened out quite quickly. But clearing your voice too much at the start and starting with some waffle and then ending on a note that's like, why would anybody ever do that? You don't know them, or you're making this really hard for me to know what to do next. They're quite common. So hitting them in with the offer at the start and then telling them how to respond. Here is what you need to do. Just do this, making it really simple, really important. So that's the structure. And then there's sort of 2 overarching things that I think I would do. One is, Glenn, I'm going to steal your point from the other day here. I would write a template version of that, but for each person you write to, write it out again. Don't copy and paste it. 2 reasons for that. One, the number of people that leave the brackets, insert name of such and such here in is absolutely astonishing how many people. So there's obviously something that the way our brains work when we're using a template means we switch off certain cognitive skills, which just leaves those errors in. So I wouldn't do that. 2, writing it out each time will mean it will just be slightly different. You'll just reword it as you go. It will just give your writing a little bit of looseness. So I would do that as one thing. Remember, it's nice and short, so that's fine. And then what I would also do is try to say to yourself, can I do, let's say, 10 cold emails in an hour? So you've got 6 minutes per email. That just is going to give you a little bit of time to personalize each one. There are levels of scale here. I don't think you need to be sending 5,000 emails a day. I mean, it's just not going to work. You are going to have to send a certain volume. But if you did 10 per hour for a full day, you're going to do 80 a day. You're giving yourself a decent chance.
There's a self-fulfilling thing, though, there, where a self-qualifying thing. If you're firing out that many emails, you haven't done enough research into that company. So you're not going to be able to engage and credentialize yourself properly with that company because you're just coldly going, yeah, you, can I write for you? The more you do that work into that company, I guarantee that will help you much more, providing the disclaimer there is providing you write in a jargonless way, in a authentic way, and not a like psychopathic, I've looked at this and done this kind of thing, and I've been watching you for 6 weeks, and I've seen you get a coffee at this time in the morning. So what the hell? As long as you're normal and show that you've genuinely researched that company, you will have far more success. There's nothing a publisher, an employer likes more than just seeing, oh right, They already get it. Nice one. That's 12 meetings I don't need to have with that person when they join tomorrow. Kind of thing.
Can I ask you a question, Glenn? Is your dog snoring on your lap? Is that what that means?
He is snoring a little bit. Yeah, he's.
Yeah. Can I just to develop Glenn's point? It's obvious when you don't know anything about the company. It's so obvious, especially since as a business, like Glenn said, let's just take the fix. We spend a significant portion of every week telling the world about ourselves. That's what businesses do. They put messaging out into the world. So especially somebody in the world of advertising to not have picked up on that in any way, shape or form is a massive red flag. So it's a little bit like, when people are applying for jobs, it's like,
it's a redder flag than a red flag.
Yeah. It's a black flag.
Because it's just black flag. Yes. I've got Henry Rollins, Nick. Have you ever even listened to Black Flag? I bet you haven't. Have you? Do you even know that they're a band? Anyway, it is the worst, I think. I would say 90% of the time, 10% of the time, I can tell from the first line, the throat clearing line, that they don't know who I am. 90% will get swept up in the second line where it's like, you've exposed yourself here. Like you could have, if you'd have opened the email saying, "Dear bath taker," like I would have been like, "Oh, hello a minute." Like they know I take baths. Do you know what I mean? Like everything is in those moments. And if I can almost, by the second line, I will be able to call. I reckon if you blind tested me, I would be able to call it every time. That person doesn't know about this business. That person doesn't know about this business.
100%. So it's obviously really easy to get wrong. It's actually really easy to get right too. You just have to commit a little bit more time. So go for a little bit less scale and a little bit more personalization with the nice short email, the structure that we've sent you. That's a good balance of time. You're going to keep most of it.
I'm going to have the wise owl come in as well with a quick wise owl statement. You might be thinking, yeah, but I'm looking into these companies like, I just want to get work. If you get work with a company that you've not researched and don't really care about, in 5 months' time, you'll be emailing us to ask, this client hasn't paid me my money. I'm not enjoying this role. I'm not doing this kind of thing, because all you're doing is delaying the problem. You will eventually find out that that company isn't right for you. You don't really want to be doing it. That will make you feel crapper. That it means you don't have that as a credibility thing anymore, because you don't want to talk about that crap work that you did for that crap company. So all you're doing is delaying the problem by thinking, I'll just send out 20 million emails now for these companies that I have no idea what they do, but I just want to get paid. You're just postponing the problem further down the line. Do the work at this early stage and the payoffs are appropriate. That work will come good in the end.
And just the final point I'll make, which is good news, which is 99% of cold emails are dreadful. So you're operating in an environment of extremely poor quality. Okay, you can make this argument about advertising as a general rule. I mean, I think I made this point at FixFest this year. If you want to feel good about yourself, just look at what's been bought and paid for out there on the internet or out there on the tube or on the TV. A lot of it's just poorly thought out crap. So you're operating in that environment. So if you get it right, your messaging will stand out like a sort of shining beacon of well thought out copywriting, and you will go further and faster than you sort of thought you could because of the competition. So don't despair. And then the sort of coda to that is, if you want a bit more help with this, we, as part of one of our courses that we put together to help people get more clients, of which cold pitching is a big part, we actually wrote out two, I think there was two, wasn't there, Glenn? Two.
Yeah, well, more than that, actually. In saying that, you just reminded me, or I reminded myself, in the course we've got on getting more clients. Yes, there's the actual pitch emails themselves. There's two versions, a very short version and a slightly longer version that you can adapt and use. It basically follows the same model that we've just been describing here. But what is also in there is a number of tasks and kind of prompts, I guess you call them these days, but things to how to research a company, how to find out what they're about, whether they're right for you, but also how to start warming up clients earlier than the cold email. There are ways you can do that and put yourself in that space, in the space of that client. So it's all full of that kind of stuff as well. So you've got the emails and you've got techniques to reduce the failure is what you're really doing. When you send that email, like if it doesn't hit, it's done. Like it's gone. You kind of lost that chance. So you want to reduce the rejections, reduce the amount of time you're ignored. There are ways you can do that, which we've not discussed here, but it is discussed in the course, and there's stuff there.
Give us the link, Glenn. How do people download that course?
Well, they can find it on our website if you're listening. If you go to thefix copywriting.com and just, I believe there's a tab on there that says get more clients. You can just click on that and there's a letter that explains exactly what's in it. Or if you're watching on YouTube, there is a link here that you can figure out. But ultimately, just come find us. There's always links. Again, it's one of those weird things, but it just evidences like you can find this stuff. Like, but it just shows if you're going to clients, if you're going to businesses, and you're not showing that you somehow understand their business, you're in big trouble. Especially if you've been going, excuse me, for the first like half an hour of the email, you're in big trouble.
Right, I enjoyed that, Glenn. Hopefully that was useful to everybody at home. Post your questions below or email us. Bother Glenn on Twitter. Do whatever you like. We'll be back next week.
I mean, that bother Glenn on Twitter is like the most dated thing I've heard you say in a long time.
That's all right. I keep trying to challenge myself to upset you with my lack of knowledge. Anyway, cheers everyone. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Fix. Until then, thank you very much. Goodbye.
That's all for this episode, but if you'd like to get your copy reviewed, or you've seen some copy you want Nick and Glenn's opinion on, get in touch at feedback@thefixcopywriting.com. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and share.